The Tram Elevator, we described in the last board meeting. We did reach out with a public relations campaign, and trust me, our compliance officer, Frank, did not spend a lot of time on it. She spends time on compliance and internal controls. But we did send out pictures of the Tram Elevator to a lot of contractors to try to generate income. Mr. Russo and I have spoken this week about following up before we go out with the RFP, one more attempt to generate, making personal calls to these contractors and seeing if we can generate interest before we actually post the RFP. After the water scare at PS 217, we had sent out some information to all the buildings, but we also did our own action with respect to the RIOC's public spaces. And so we've checked the water in all of the public spaces except for the conference stations because the water had not been turned on yet. And that will finish now that spring is in the air. But all of our public spaces are free of any lead problems, so I'm happy to report that. Speaking of spring in the air, it doesn't feel like spring is in the air, but by the calendar it is, and we are pleased to tell everybody in the community that we're ordering new barbecues, new picnic benches, new water fountains, which are much more expensive than I had thought, but we need new water fountains, and new benches. Benches, picnic tables, barbecues, water fountains.
New benches? We just got new benches.
Well, there are some benches that need to be repaired, and I'm not sure exactly. Do you know how many we're ordering?
No, I don't remember how many, but some are replacements and some are for some new areas also.
Because my recollection when we worked on the church plaza was that we had some extra benches because we didn't use all the ones we had. Now where they are, I don't know.
I can look for them.
We have a new maintenance manager. I don't think she's here tonight, but she was already kicking butt today. So I'm happy to report that we're excited about her coming. I'd like you to meet her. Seems like she's going to get along great with our staff, and again, anyone who feels that things need some repair, just please tell us, because we do go around, we do look. Shelton Haynes is always looking, and sometimes we don't see everything that you see, so I would ask the community to just...
When the snow is all gone, and they check out the soccer field, because they need some, the AstroTurf needs some repairs before the big summer season gets, and we're swamped like every weekend with crowds of people.
Okay.
And the pavers between Blackwell House and the first building, I didn't realize how badly cracked they are when I walked by there today.
Do we have any funds for the playground?
We are. One of the things we've been talking about is our legal department, and I think it was primarily our legal department worked on a new service template for RFPs so that we don't always have to deal with each thing separately, so that we can go out and get a panel of electricians, a panel of plumbers, a panel of, even someone on call for paving problems, someone on call for playground problems, and having everything in place so that we are not running around trying to come to you with a request for a contract. And so I think that that's going to make the maintenance on the island a lot easier and a lot more efficient. So that's a project I'd like to thank our legal department about. Last but not least, next week, the Motorgate Gallery has its opening. Riva and RIOC are hosting, and I would invite everybody to come. There'll be refreshments and a live jazz band.
I wanted to mention on the, if you want some help on the panel RFP concept, we've been using that for years. And so we have some templates that we can give you.
Great.
They do work, it's a lot easier to handle.
We have easy access to the records of the last time that ruin down there was stabilized, because we spent considerable money on it. But I feel like we just did it, but actually I'm going back at least 10 years.
Deborah Beck was on the board.
What?
Deborah Beck was on the board at the time.
Which one?
In fact, I remember she said, they're ruins, they're supposed to fall down.
No, we don't want them to fall down.
But there was a project sometime the last 20 years or so. I'd be interested in seeing where and how that project failed, if it did.
With the roads all bracing,
Yeah.
it's still doing great. This is additional areas. So back, when I read the reports from years ago, those were the immediate, areas of immediate danger. Now this is then they wrote a multi-phase plan. This is the next execution of the next priority group.
Well, they completely took apart one wall, because it was crumbling, so they numbered the stones.
Numbered them.
And then, restacked them, and, it's kind of a worthy project to have done, but you hate to think we're gonna be saddled with redoing this over and over again until the ruin finally.
Ruins?
Yeah, but I'm glad that, For Freedoms took that on, they have an interest. They showed an interest to us some years ago about taking over that property for some reason or another. I've taken publicly the position that if anybody wants to take it over, let them. Just because the longer it lies idle, the more of this kind of maintenance issue is going to happen. We're going to have to redo this stabilization again in 10 years, inevitably.
Well, I mean, to Susan's point, where she talked about a $20 million project, I think she said, we have the stabilization issues, and then once the rest of all this, the skeleton that is up to just make sure it doesn't further go apart, it's the technical documents that kind of repin things so that the walls become, to themselves stronger. And then it's going to be rebuilt back into the places that they need to be.
I guess I'm kind of, my faith is probably aligned with Deborah Beck somewhere. But, you draw a line, but you reach a point where it has to do with who owns who. And, do we own it or does it own us? And in fact, it owns us, but we get no benefit from it except it just sits there. And it's nice to look at, lovely ruin. And bare ruin, choir ruins, the sweet birds sing. What would that be?
But I think I happen to think it's beautiful, but I also think it could be used to become something that,
Sure.
whether it's a community space or an exhibition hall or
Like
wildlife.
Like the Octagon was repurposed. But I'd like to
Adaptive
see
reuse
it
is-
adaptive reuse, but I'd like to see it for a much more public kind of thing than another park.
Shakespeare on the Island.
Someone suggested it could be a destination restaurant or something. If anybody wants to take over the project and do it, I'd say let them. Really.
Well, there's been a lot of interest in the project, and that's why Kim is gonna have her hands full next year.
Good.
All right, what I come in,